Hey up everybody, and welcome back to the Just the Driven YouTube channel. My name's Josh, and today you join me on the top of a car park in Leeds where we're going to be taking a look around the Nissan Juke Nismo RS. Now that is a bit of a mouthful, and it is fair to say that the Nissan Juke has polarised opinions since its release in 2010. But the guys over at Nismo have done a little bit of trickery with this car behind me here, so join me in today's video where we're going to take a look around the car, a look inside of the car, and to take it out for a drive to find out what it's really about. Okay guys, so as I've already said, we're going to be taking a look around this Nismo RS today, and before you guys click off this video, it is actually quite a good car. It's one of them cars where you don't want to fit in, you want to be individual, you want to be a little bit different, and this doesn't really fit any sort of mould. It doesn't fit the hot hatch mould, it doesn't quite fit the crossover mould. It's got more power than your usual crossover. So let's take a look around the car, find out what it's all about. We're going to head over to the inside, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it, and then we're going to take it out onto the road. So the Nissan Juke was released in 2010, and in 2013 Nissan released the Nismo Juke. Now the Nismo Juke came with 197 brake horsepower in either a 6-speed manual, as this car has here, or also a CVT automatic gearbox. Now the manual did the 0 to 60 sprint in 7 seconds, and the automatic did it in 8 seconds. In 2015 Nismo rejuvenated this particular car and brought out the Nismo RS. Now this Nismo RS still has the same 1.6 turbocharged engine, however it's now got 213 brake horsepower. It's also got the 4-pot Brembos, which I don't know if you can see just inside of there, with the split tone rims. It's also got the red accents around the car, such as these wing mirror caps here, and also this line just along the side skirt, and it's got a lot of this grey plasticky style stuff around the car. So if we just take a look around the rear here, you will also see it along with the diffuser, along with the pinstripe, the red pinstripe going all the way along the car, with a single exit exhaust. Now this particular car has had a Exhaustworks back box delete, so it is a little bit louder than stock, but the stock car does also sound pretty good as well. So as I said at the beginning of this video, the Juke has always polarised opinions, whether it's the shape of the rear lights or just the shape of the car in general. Now just a quick note about the shape of this car, Nissan have come out and said that this swooping roofline is almost GTR like. Now if you look at a picture of a GTR alongside of this, you will see exactly what they're speaking about, but it's got this rather sharp uplift of the front window and then a sloping roof down at the back. Now what this does mean is that anybody getting into the back of this car does have a lack of headroom. So if you just have a look inside of here, it is quite low. Now I'm 6'1", I can get into the back of this car, but I can't get into this back of this car without my head touching the roof. So the Nissan Juke is quite an individual car. There was nothing like it on the market when it released in 2010, and I'm quite confident in saying that there's nothing in the market quite like this at the moment as well. As we go around to the front, we'll see we've got this dark chrome sort of patch around the badge there, which is also being blacked out, and we have this triple stack of lights. So we've got the normal lights, we've got the fog lights, and we've also got the daytime running lights as well. So when Nismo got their hands on this car the first time in 2013, not only did they add more power with the 1.6 turbocharged engine, but they also added a mechanical LSD to the front wheels. Now we'll speak about that in a little bit when we get inside of the car. The whole car has been stiffened up, the whole chassis has been stiffened up. They've also added the 320mm 4-pot Brembo brakes at the front and the back, so this car does stop on a dime, and I must say that's one great thing about this car is the braking setup. So this particular car has a rather monochromatic or stormtrooper look to it, with the white paintwork, the black wheels, and this white paintwork is pearl as well, so in the sun it looks really good. And as we move towards the back of the car, you will see that we've got a blacked out Nismo RS badge, we've got a blacked out Nissan badge, and also a blacked out Juke badge. Now I'm a big fan of how this exhaust looks on here. Now it is a little bit loud, it's probably a little bit too loud for me on a day-to-day basis. It does also drone quite a bit as well. But without any hesitation, we'll jump into the car, we'll have a look around the outside, we'll talk about what sort of spec this car has, because being the Nismo RS, it is loaded up to the eyeballs with things such as lane detection, such as visibility detection, and all that sort of stuff. So let's jump inside right now. Before we jump into the car then, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, hit that red button down there, like the video if you've liked it, and leave me a comment down below letting me know what cars you want me to take a look around. But without further hesitation, I'm going to jump into the car and we'll take a look around the inside. So when you jump into the Nismo RS then, you are greeted with an Alcantara and leather steering wheel. Now this steering wheel has a red centre stripe at the top, which I think is a very nice touch, and it's also further information that Nismo's fettled with this, as they use red in a lot of their cars. Now the steering wheel itself is fairly basic, but it has everything that you need it to have: volume control, speed limiter control, cruise control and radio control as well. Now directly in front of the driver we have two dials. A dial on the right is your speed, and just above the kilometre circle we have a nice RS badge on there as well, and on the left hand side we have the revs. Now similarly to the right hand side we have a Nismo badge on there, and the dial itself is red, so it adds a nice little touch in that respect as well. So moving on to the infotainment then, we have a 5-inch multimedia screen in the middle of the console here, and it is a little bit old. It isn't the newest of technology, it's been in the Juke for a very long time, so it isn't as responsive as what newer models are, but it does the job. Just surrounding this touchscreen we have different buttons such as phone, radio, CD, aux, map, navigation, information and settings. Now just below that we've got the climate control and also the driving modes as well. Now with regards to the driving modes, we have 3 driving modes to choose from: normal, sport and eco. In each one of them individually changes the way the steering responds, the way the throttle responds and the way the engine is set up. Now surrounding all of this multimedia and also around the car as well, it is rather interesting carbon fibre style plastic, and it's all the way through the interior as well, and we're also joined by quite a bit of gloss black as well. And the inside of this car generally is quite dark. We've got a dark headlining, there's no bits of colour barring the red stitching on the top of the shield here and red stitching on the seats as well. But other than that, it is quite dark. Now one particular part of the interior design which caught my eye even back in 2010 when the Juke first came out is this sort of centre tunnel here. Now Nissan have designed this to be like a motorbike. So if you take a look at it here, where the gear stick is, that's almost like the petrol tank. And then where the handbrake is, that's almost like the seat. And then it tails up at the back to where the armrest is as well. So there's little touches in here which are actually quite nice. But without further ado, let's head onto the road and see how this thing drives. We are currently on the road in the Nismo RS then, and I want to talk about some of the technology that we've got in here. And I've already mentioned we've got lane detection, we've got blind spot detection as well, which are these funky little lights just in the door pillars here that light red when there's a car in your blind spot. We've got quite a good sat-nav system, which is surprising given the age of the car and also the age of the technology in here as well. But the gearbox in here is absolutely fantastic. Now, in the old Nismo, not the RS, you were able to get an automatic gearbox. However, it was quite a bit slower than the manual. Now, the manual of this car has a very, very short throw. It's very notchy and it's actually quite pleasurable to manoeuvre. It's one of them gearboxes that I wouldn't mind driving in a manual car at all, or on a long journey. It feels really sporty and I'm a big fan of it. So with regards to how the car rides, and I've already said that this car has been stiffened up. It's not too stiff, it's not track car stiff, but it's also not that wallowy either. Now, one of my main gripes about this car is the body roll. The body roll of this car is its bane. Now, I've already said that this isn't going to be the fastest car, it's not going to be a quick car around a track, and it's not going to break any records when it comes to 0 to 60. But one thing that really lets this car down is just the way that the chassis feels when you put your foot down. It does have a mechanical LSD, so it does tend to put the power down, at least in a straight line, pretty well. But as soon as you start getting further up into the revs, it starts to lose puff a little bit. And if you throw this car into a corner, my expectation would be that the mechanical LSD will pull you through it. But no, Nissan decided that he wanted it to flash up on the traction control, power will get cut, and you can't really put any power down when it comes to situations like that. One thing that I must say, and a huge tick from me, is these seats. They are so comfortable. They're sort of an Alcantara cloth mixture of material. But they just seem to have the dimensions and the hugginess quite right in this particular case. Now, I have been in a Nismo RS that has had the hard bucket seats, and by God, they are ridiculously firm. They are bolstered to the nines. The bolsters are so high up that you have to watch yourself getting in and out of the car because you can do some serious damage. But anyway, they are a £1,300 option, so they are pretty expensive. But I suppose if you're going to be having this car for a long time and you want the sports car look, then there's no reason why you shouldn't go for the bucket seats. Now, one thing that I was quite surprised about is the prices of these cars. So these cars started at £21,000 when they were released back in 2015, and since then they have dropped quite a bit. and it's become quite a bit of a buyer's market now. So if you go onto Auto Trader and look at some of these Nismo RSs, you can probably pick one up for not much more than £10,000. So 215 brake horsepower, sort of family car for £10,000 is pretty impressive, really, when you consider that the Mark 7 GTI is just as old, if not older, than some of these cars, and they're going for around 14,000. So this car does have the back box delete from exhaust works. I've already spoke about that a little bit earlier on. I can hear it in the car now, and I'm sure you guys can hear it as well, but I suppose at motorway speeds it would drone quite a bit given the sort of tone of the exhaust, but day-to-day driving and lower miles per hour, it does actually sound half decent. You know, it sounds a little bit more throaty, it sounds a little bit deeper compared to the stock engine, and I just think it adds a little bit more character to the car, which I don't know if it needs more character given what it actually is, but I just think it's a nice little upgrade, and I suppose if you're getting a catback or something like that, that might work a little bit better. Another thing that I like about this car is how short the gears feel. It feels like you're really making some movement when you're going through the gears. Starts running out of puff about there. We've got a little bit of induction noise as well, and I don't know if that's standard or whether it's something that's specifically put onto these Nismo RSs. But it's no slouch. It's not the quickest car in the world, but compared to the majority of cars on the road, it feels quite nice. There's just something about a manual car that has a short notchy gearbox that makes me so happy. It is a little bit wallowy, but who cares? You're in a Nismo RS, not many people have got them. I didn't actually expect to have this sort of a smile on my face when I started recording this car. It's actually surprised me quite a bit, because it's not one of them cars that you buy because it's ultra quick or ultra stylish or anything like that. It's just a good laugh to drive. Bit of body roll, oh, a bit of understeer there as well. That was a little bit scary. The traction control cutting a little bit there. That was quite a little fun chicane there. I must come up here more often, but as soon as we go right and then we went left, you could feel the car move quite a bit. The traction control kicked in. So I think to sort of round up this video then, the Nissan Juke definitely brings something different to the table. And whether different is good is for you guys to decide. I quite like the fact that it's not the quickest thing on the earth. I like how unique it is. You know, I like cars to stand out, and this definitely stands out considering you don't see that many of them, especially of the RS as opposed to the normal Nismos. But in general, it's a nice place to sit. These seats are absolutely fantastic. The gearbox is great as well. I'm a huge fan of that. It just has that nice notchy feel that you want from a manual gearbox, and I think a lot of cars nowadays are making it very easy for the driver to drive it quickly, whereas with a manual gearbox, and especially a notchy one, it just gives you so much of a nice sensation when you're going through the gears. It's just a really nice addition to this car. If you are planning on getting a Nismo as opposed to an RS, do not go for the automatic. Although they are four-wheel drive, they are slower to 60 than the manual cars, purely because of the way that the automatic gearbox is. So we're currently sat at some traffic lights. We're first in the line. I've got a bit of a space in front of me. I'm going to see just how fast that this car feels. I know it's not going to be warp speed. I'm just curious as to how it feels in comparison to other cars. The steering does get very, very light under acceleration, which is something that I'm not a huge fan of. I know that the critics have been on this car for the way that the steering feels, because it is too light, and personally I would rather have a very stiff steering wheel than a very light steering wheel. We're just hitting a little bit of a twisty now in the form of a roundabout. Let's see how the car performs. Quite a bit of understeer there, but we're out on the power, and funnily enough, there's a Civic Type R in front of us, and in front of that there is another Nismo Juke in the same colour that we're driving this car in now. What are the chances of that, given how rare this car is? And I know it's not a limited run or anything like that, but given the fact that not a lot of people buy them, it's quite interesting to see another one on the road. I really cannot gel with the way that this car feels around a corner. It just feels too light and too understeery for it to be a decent performance car. And I know that's not the entire goal of this, but even something such as, you know, the Fiesta ST has a better turning. It doesn't have as much understeer as this car has, but it just feels so light and floaty when you're going around the corner. it's not confidence inspiring whatsoever. And I'm unsure whether it's fair to sit here and criticise it to this degree, given that it's not supposed to be a full out package as it comes out of the box. But I suppose if you are making a car that can be considered a hot hatch, that you do want it to perform in the corners as opposed to be a little bit of a floaty, rolly mess, if that makes sense. So that's something that I'm going to mark the Nismo RS down on heavily, simply because it just doesn't give you any confidence in the corners. And as soon as you put any power on and you're at more of a 90-degree angle on the steering wheel, it will just understeer, cut the power, traction control will come on, and then you'll be looking like a bit of a lemon because you're going 20 miles an hour around a corner. And to round up this video then, I don't think there's much else that I can say about this car that's going to change your opinion on it, but it's a nice little package. It does what it says on the tin. It's got a little bit more power than the normal Juke, it's got a little bit more space than a normal hatchback car, and I suppose it's going to polarise